Welcome into another Players to Watch feature as we get ready to kick off the 2019 playoffs. I'm Michael Knight, the Managing Director of OKPreps.com, and we're going to get you ready with 5 players to watch in 6A Division II. If you haven't done so already, be sure to check out OKPreps.com every single day for more playoff preview content throughout the week leading up to kickoff of the 2019 playoffs come Friday, with the first round kicking off on Friday evening. And also be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more player to watch features as well as highlights throughout the 2019 playoffs. We'll be out and about at games all across the state of Oklahoma. So be sure, if you haven't done so already, to go to youtube.com/OKPreps, hit subscribe, and you'll get all of our great video content right there sent directly to your phone. You won't even need to go to OKPreps.com, but we definitely encourage you to do so, to check out all of our playoff preview content that we're putting out every single day. And if you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow us on social media, and you'll get the quickest news, the quickest notes throughout the day on Twitter at OKPrepsTV. All right, in this feature, we're going to give you 5 players to watch in 6A Division II. While it seems like Bixby and Stillwater are on a crash course for one another in the state championship game, there are plenty of other players to watch in this 6A2 playoffs that could make things extremely interesting. But for now, let's start with that Bixby and Stillwater dynamic. And look, I'm not doing this on purpose. We're just going alphabetically. It just happens to be those are the 2 first teams. But we start with the defending champion, Bixby Spartans, with their player to watch, Brennan Presley. He's an Oklahoma State football commit at the wide receiver position. He's been making plays for the Spartans for the last 3 seasons, and it's easy to see why he's one of the players to watch. He was a player to watch coming into this year, and he has lived up to the hype and then some. And it all started in that first game of the season. We wanted to see Brennan Presley go from one of the better wide receivers in Oklahoma to potentially the best wide receiver in Oklahoma. And what does he do? He comes out in the first game against Mansfield-Timberview. You're checking out some of those highlights right now. He catches 6, count them, 6 touchdowns in their victory over Mansfield-Timberview. And unfortunately, it was all downhill from there. When you have a game like that, you're not going to be able to replicate it unless you're just an absolute elite stud. And Presley is one of the best in Oklahoma, but he wasn't able to replicate that. He did have several other games where he put up eye-popping numbers. The Jinx game where he had 3 interceptions on the defensive side of the ball. Here recently, the Shawn game, he caught several touchdowns. He also blocked a field goal, took that back for a touchdown as well. Had a pick 6 against Shawn. So he's one of those players that is absolutely dynamic. He's caught over 20 touchdowns this season. He has 4 interceptions on the defensive side of the ball, and it's gotten to the point where teams just know you cannot throw at number 8. He's one of the most dynamic players in the state. And look, if you've been following us, if you've been watching our features, if you've been listening to any of our stuff that we put out when it comes to Brennan Presley, the Bixby Spartans, this is no secret. I've made no secret about it. I've been a Brennan Presley proponent for about 3 years now, since he burst onto the scene as a sophomore. He has been one of the most electric players in 6A Division II, and a great way to start off. If Bixby is going to repeat as state champions and continue this dynasty that they have, I guarantee you a big reason why will because of the play on offense and defense of Brennan Presley. And we mentioned that Bixby-Stillwater dynamic. Those 2 teams do appear to be on a crash course for one another, and a big reason why Stillwater looks to return to the state championship game is the return of their quarterback, senior Gunnar Gundy, a 3-year starter at the quarterback position for Stillwater. Similar to Brennan Presley, we wanted to see Gundy take that next step. He's put up nice numbers so far as a sophomore, as a junior. He's been more of a game manager. He hasn't put up those numbers that just absolutely jump off the page at you until now. Now he has. He's completed 75% of his passes throughout the season. He had 2 games this year, 2 games on 2 separate occasions where he only threw 1 incompletion. And these are games where he threw, close to 20 passes in each of those games. And it is true, a lot of these numbers are mostly done in the first half. He hasn't had to see a lot of playing time in the second half. And it is going to be interesting to see how Stillwater responds in a 4-quarter battle. And they're going to see him coming up. But Gundy has been outstanding. He's thrown for over 2,500 yards, over 35 touchdowns. Only 1 throw has gone to the other team. Only 1 interception on the season for Gundy. And Stillwater has had one of the best offenses in the state of Oklahoma. And we mentioned the crash course, and I'm sure a lot of people in 6A2, a lot of teams, Booker T. Washington, Del City, Muskogee, I apologize to you if you're tired of hearing all the talk about Bixby and Stillwater, but there's a good reason for it because of those first 2 players that we mentioned with Brennan, Presley, and Gunnar Gundy. A good reason why we might end up seeing that rematch for the state championship in December. Some other players to watch in 6A2, and there are some dynamic guys at some of these other schools. And if we see an upset or 2, these guys more than likely will have something to do with it. And we start with the Muskogee Roughers and their running back, Jimmie Coleman. What a surprise this has been for Muskogee. Back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons from their running back, Jimmie Coleman. This has been an offense. This has been a team that, especially earlier on in the season, most of the headlines were about the defense. The defense was playing so exceptionally well for Muskogee that most of the coverage and the headlines were about the defense and all the turnovers that they were creating and all the turnovers they were forcing. And Jimmie Coleman, what does he do? He kind of just flies under the radar. And maybe that's on us. Maybe that's on us that we should have known. We should have known to expect this. He put up over 1,500 yards last year, and he did it again this season. This is a Muskogee team that is talented. Going into Week 10, they were 1 upset away from being undefeated in that clash with Bixby for the district championship. They got upset by Shawn earlier in October, and 1 upset away from being perfect going up against Bixby for the district championship. This is a talented Muskogee team. This is a dangerous Muskogee team, and we mentioned upsets. Upsets happen all the time. Muskogee was upset by Shawn. Nobody saw that coming. Jimmie Coleman, one of the best running backs on the east side of the state, one of the more consistent running backs on the east side of the state, and it seems like he's playing some of his best football right now, making the Roughers and Jimmie Coleman a very dangerous team and a very dangerous threat in 6A2. We stay on the east side, but we go over to the defensive side of the ball with Booker T. Washington linebacker Krishawn Brown, Kansas commit, one of the best linebackers in the state. He got nicked up with some injuries last year as a junior, and he's made up for lost time this season as a senior. Now, it's been an up and down year for Booker T. Washington on the scoreboard as they've lost players to injury. They've played some of the best teams in the state of Oklahoma, and things just kind of haven't worked out the way they had hoped going into the 2019 season. But one of the bright spots for Booker T throughout the year has been the play of Krishawn Brown. He has nearly 150 tackles on defense, and this is a Hornet football team that takes pride in the defensive side of the ball. Krishawn Brown takes pride in his ability to wear the orange and black, be one of the top players in the state of Oklahoma, and he is one of the top linebackers in Oklahoma this season for a Hornet team that, look, things just haven't worked out the way they wanted. There's still plenty of time to right the ship. This is a dangerous team, a very talented team. You look up and down the roster, and you're seeing guys who are going to end up playing on Saturdays at the Division I level, and Krishawn Brown is one of them. A big reason why Booker T. Washington arguably is one of the most dangerous teams going into the playoffs. If they can figure out some things, if they can figure out some things offensively, and it seems like they have a freshman running back that's been outstanding so far the last few weeks. If they can figure out some things offensively, that defense is stout, that defense has stars all over the place. Booker T. Washington could be arguably the most dangerous team in the state when it comes to playoff time. They could pull off not one but a few upsets and make a potential championship run. Our final player to watch, we go to Del City with another. We mentioned Gunnar Gundy, a 3-year starter at the quarterback position. Another 3-year starter at quarterback is Del City QB Quinlan Ganther, one of the best dual threat guys in the state of Oklahoma. And when you look at his numbers from last year, he did most of his damage through the air. And it's easy to see why when he had some of the best receivers in the state, the Foreman brothers, Jeff Foreman, one of the most electrifying wide receivers in the state of Oklahoma last season, now a freshman at Arkansas State. And going into his senior year, Ganther and Del City still one of the best offensive units in the state of Oklahoma. But because of the losses to graduation at the receiver position, Ganther has had to do it both ways. He's had to throw, he's had to run, and he is more than capable of beating a defense through the air as well as on the ground. He's thrown for over 1,500 yards, over 15 touchdowns. He also has over 750 yards on the ground and close to 10 touchdowns rushing as well. Del City, one of those teams that is chomping at the bit for revenge, to make a deep run. They had that brutal first-round matchup with Booker T last season, and surprise, surprise, we get it again this year as Del City looks to make a run. Quinlan Ganther, one last ride for the Eagles, as he's been a great talent for Del City. They have a very young defense that have stars all over it, but when it comes to the experience, Del City, they're used to being in big-time games. They're used to be in big-time moments. And Ganther specifically is used to shining bright under those bright lights in the playoffs. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he and the rest of our 5 players to watch do as we kick off the 6A Division II playoffs. This has been our Player to Watch feature here on OKPreps.com, also on YouTube.com/OKPreps. I remind you again, if you haven't done so already, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more Player to Watch features as well as highlights throughout the 2019 playoffs. And also be sure to check back every single day on OKPreps.com for more preview content as we get closer and closer to the first round of the playoffs kicking off on Friday night. One final time, I'm Michael Knight, and this has been 5 Players to Watch in 6A Division II.